Impede drowning cases inquiry. Australia continues with elections assistance. And northern communities finally illuminated. Good evening. Several inquiries into drowning cases involving children are taking longer to investigate because of certain specific issues. The Fiji Police Force has in the past warned that parents and guardians will be taken to task if it was established that there were elements of negligence.
The Fiji Police Force continues to investigate a number of drowning cases involving children. These are being looked at thoroughly by the divisional crime officers.
Once they have made a decision, then we will also forward the files to the DPP's office for further sanctioning. At this stage, we have about 3 files that have are now with the divisional crime officers of cases that were recorded way back in November 2013 to January. Because there were a few incidents, one after the other, where children were involved in drowning cases.
While constantly reminding parents and guardians to monitor their children in light of drowning incidents, a word of caution has often been issued with that advisory. However, proving negligence is easier said than done.
We have to actually show that there was an intent. That is one of the major challenges that we face. So all avenues and all angles have to be fully investigated. We question all the parents, all the families involved, and that's something that takes time. I know that people might think that it's just straightforward because most of these cases, one common occurrence is that the child was in their care and afterwards, and then they disappear, and then a search is conducted when unfortunately they've found the child involved in the tragic incident.
Police have noted a change in attitude and are grateful that parents and guardians are now closely monitoring their children.
During our operations out at picnic areas, over the festive season, we've seen that parents are more vigilant when it comes to the monitoring of their children, and I think that's something that needs to continue. And you don't really have to wait for the police to be giving that sort of advice. We've always mentioned that it just takes a few seconds for tragedy to occur.
Several water safety initiatives have been initiated following drowning incidents. Amelia Vunilamba, Fiji One News.
The Government of Australia has so far assisted in preparations for elections with the provision of 2 electoral experts working with the Elections Office. It says it will continue to assist Fiji in areas that need their expertise.
The Government of Australia literally putting its money where its mouth is. Since government set out concrete commitments to conducting elections this year, Australia has not fallen short of helping out. Like so many other countries that have committed some level of assistance, Australia will continue to do so until Fijians take to the polls.
We welcome the appointment of the Elections Commission. Again, another positive step coming after the release of the Constitution last year. We've continually said that we're willing to work with the government as it moves forwards towards elections.
Australia, he says, has demonstrated that commitment.
By providing 2 elections experts, and we're not alone in that. I know that New Zealand and the EU have also provided elections experts as well, and including on providing support for the Elections Office.
The Australian government will consult with government as it identifies areas that need assistance.
There'll be a range of opportunities that come up. There'll be a range of requirements and needs that are identified as we progress, and we'll work not just with the Fiji government but with other donors to try and ensure that those gaps are filled. But it will be done in a consultative way, and we'll talk on a frequent basis with the Fijian government.
The High Commissioner says although Australia has not been asked to observe the elections, neither has its government indicated that it would like to. However, the Australian government looks forward to seeing observers come September 2014. Sherry-Ann Wilson, Fiji One News.
Legislation governing our election process is now in its final draft. But before the rules of the game are finalised, the Electoral Commission will first cite all recommendations. Sharon Wilson again reports.
They met for the first time yesterday, the Electoral Commission making it very clear that it will vet the regulation in its draft form before it is gazetted. The election regulation will be cited by the Commission before a final decision is made.
Because obviously we are the one who will be implementing it, and we do have one or two individuals within our ranks who have some past experience about elections, and we'll be able to comment it and maybe put suggestions back to the drafters or framers of the regulations to say, do you think this might work? And obviously there will be a consultation and an exchange of views. And I don't doubt that that will happen. It will happen, that they will consult us and we will talk about it. Yeah.
The regulation now in its final draft.
And I think it's a mistake to say, well, give us all the drafts. I think once they're satisfied with what they think is a draft which they think they're happy to hand over to us, I think that's when, instead of duplicating work, I think that'll be the best time when we take a look at it, and it'll be all hands on board as far as the Commission is concerned to review it and to comment on it, and we will meet amongst ourselves, independent of the government drafters or the consultants, and sometimes to also meet with the consultants too to say, well, what are you trying to achieve with this particular regulation?
Meanwhile, the Line Minister making it very clear that the Commission does not need the regulations in order to do their work.
The point is that the Commission has a lot already to do, and of course the regulation will touch on some aspects of the elections, but in the meantime they've got a whole heap of areas to cover.
An obvious absence yesterday was the seventh member of the Commission, Professor Vijay Naidu. The Commission says this will not affect meetings they have planned.
He'll be contacted, and we will circulate the minutes of our discussions and what has transpired today. So he'll be well versed.
Despite their diverse professional backgrounds, the Commission will meet once a week and even more regularly if there is a need to. Sherry-Ann Wilson, Fiji One News.
Government continues to address the increasing threats of climate change to coastal communities. One such vulnerable community has been relocated as a result of the impact of climate change. Prime Minister Commodore Porenge Bainimarama yesterday officially commissioned the relocation of Vunindongoloa settlement in Vanuatu. Our reporter Halite Start was there and filed this report.
This is the current Vunindongoloa settlement. Following Cyclone Thomas in 2010, the impacts of climate change became more visible, forcing villagers to think about relocating themselves. And now they have relocated to this place, a higher ground located just few hundred meters from their original village.
The lessons we learn here as we relocate your village will help us deal with this crisis at a wider national level and the threat to other communities.
The government has forked out close to $1 million to relocate this settlement. This is the first community in Fiji that has been relocated, followed by Narikoso in Kandavu. 676 communities have been identified to be threatened by the impacts of climate change, out of which 42 settlements will potentially have to be relocated in next 5 to 10 years.
But unfortunately, this is just the start. Many more communities and ordinary families in Fiji will also have to be relocated.
The PM says the government has made climate change as a national priority.
While we fight in international forums to get the industrialized nations to face up to their responsibilities on carbon emissions, we will battle the encroaching sea here in Fiji in places like Vunindongoloa.
The community alone contributed $240,000 for this project. Haliteshtat, Fiji One News.
Still in the Northern Division, close to 5,000 people living in Riketi, Batiri and Senganga now have access to electricity. This follows the official commissioning of the Riketi grid extension yesterday. It's a move that's expected to spur development activities in the Northern Division.
These people have lived in Riketi, Batiri and Senganga area all their lives, however without a proper electricity supply. And 2014 couldn't have started on a much better note, as they are now connected to the national grid. Government says this $14 million investment will go a long way in the development of this part of the country.
By providing electricity and a proper road instead of a dirt track, we are creating the basic infrastructure that every society needs to grow. From these improvements are bound to come more people, more businesses, and more wealth. And that means more opportunities for the people of this wonderful but previously neglected part of Fiji.
The grid will provide power along the 70 kilometers from Lambasa to Driketi to some 8 communities and 243 customers, with the ability to add more as the region develops.
That FEA had already signed a power purchase agreement with Fiji Sugar Corporation, which was to sell power into the FEA grid from its Lambasa cogeneration plant. By building this line through, this would enable FEA to pass the benefit of the cheap electricity to the citizens of Vanuatu.
The government has also signed an agreement with the People's Republic of China to construct a 700 kilowatt mini hydropower plant in Taviuni. Komodo Warenge Banimarama says this is all part of government's Look North policy.
I will never accept that someone living in Driketi deserves fewer services just because they live in a more isolated part of the country. I want you and everyone in Fiji to have the same basic services as people living in Suva. The same access to electricity, to water, to education, to basic health.
With an allocation of $24 million in this year's budget, the rural electrification program will be strengthened in Tavua Korvo corridor as well. Alitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
Still to come tonight, Western police officers pulled up for KPI's shortfalls, and major telecommunications gets underway. Hello again. Police officers in the Western Division were reprimanded yesterday after falling short of targets set out in the form of key performance indicators. Acting Police Commissioner Ravi Narayan highlighted a number of key areas the division failed to achieve. He was addressing the officers at the 4th Quarter Parade in Lautoka yesterday afternoon.
Reviewing the parade before a tongue lashing, the Acting Commissioner of Police clearly unimpressed with the Western Division's KPI results, or at least some of it.
In the reduction of complaints and disciplinary offences by 50%, you will need to work harder for your division as you fell short of the target recording a 47% decrease.
While the overall performance of the force was commendable, the same couldn't be said about the Western Division. Of particular concern was serious crime. An overall reduction of 22% was recorded at the national level. However, the Western Division only recorded a 7% reduction. Service and complaints against police officers was another area of concern.
In this area, on a daily basis, we receive complaints. Even on my way from Suva to Lautoka today, I dealt with 5 complaints. 5 complaints on my way to Western Division. There's no other division in Fiji that has recorded that number of complaints today. Other divisions were 0. Okay, we have given you the resources that you wanted. We have given you the vehicles that you wanted, especially for the crime. And why this complaint? This is my question to you today, the DPC and the men and women of the Western Division.
Having failed to achieve other key areas, Narayan urged officers to improve their service delivery. He also reminded them that he'll be keeping tabs on their performance.
I'll be here again in the end of first quarter to ensure that what I have told you today is taken down and is implied and complied with, and the results are better than you have given to us in the last and final quarter of 2013.
Plans are also in the pipeline for officers to undergo different aspects of training, all in the hope of improving services. Amelia Vunilamba, Fiji One News.
The people of Vanuatu can now have better access to the World Wide Web. This comes as the Fiji Vanuatu Telecommunications Submarine Optical Fiber Cables operation started today. It's a huge project that's expected to connect Vanuatu to the rest of the world at a faster rate. Ravaiva for all reports.
Vanuatu can now tap into telecommunication benefits that Fiji currently enjoys. This comes as Fintel commenced operations on its Fiji Vanuatu optical fiber cable today. The Fintel Interchange Limited telecommunications venture is expected to revolutionize the telecommunications sector in Vanuatu. The 4-year venture, which comes at a cost of US $30 million, involves 1,250 kilometers of cable, which will provide additional data capacity and the speed that will benefit Vanuatu economically and socially.
To send a signal to Tonga Vanuatu is less than 15 milliseconds when you compare that with a satellite, which is an average 250 milliseconds. Apart from the efficiency, the cost of sending those transmissions.
Fintel is leading Fiji's bid to be the telecommunications hub for Pacific Island countries, and this cable transcends that.
Strengthens our position as the telecommunications hub of the Pacific. And for the businesses here in Fiji, as well as in Australia or anywhere else, now they have the opportunity to connect directly to Vanuatu and Tonga.
Samisoni adds, this project will not only benefit Vanuatu.
This is a huge benefit, first of all, to the country, Fiji. When if you look at the total investment for Tonga and Vanuatu, it's over 100 million Fijian. So to have that confidence to land it here is the confidence in the country itself.
This is the second Pacific Island cable system installed, positioning Fiji as the telecommunications hub of the Pacific. Ravai Vafo'o, Fiji One News.
The general public will benefit immensely from the reduction in wholesale bandwidth prices in relation to internet usage. However, according to the Commerce Commission, while the price reduction is now effective, it will take some time to fully settle in.
With the 15% deduction in wholesale rates in place, the telecommunication industry can now invest to broaden their coverage in the country. With close to 98% of coverage achieved so far, this initiative will allow more capital investments by telecom operators.
Any government, they would want to ensure that the development is spread throughout the country and there are people who are not excluded from the development.
However, Dr. Reddy says that spreading the network will take some time.
Technology is rapidly changing. They also have to keep on changing the existing investment they have made because it needs to be upgraded.
But the Commission adds that this should not stop operators from dropping data rates now.
With the spread of the network, then only we can see that data will also penetrate. Without spread of the network throughout the entire country, it's no use reducing data rates.
However, Dr. Reddy added that the rates offered at the moment are the best in the region.
If you compare the rates in Fiji with any other country in the Pacific region, Fiji's internet rate and voice data rate is the cheapest.
These reforms and competition would not have been possible without the state's intervention. Reviver for all, Fiji One News.
The Fiji Teachers Union claims the reduction in executive teachers' numbers by 50% could affect certain aspects of the education process. General Secretary Agnideo Singh says cutting them off will affect one of the core business of teaching, that is to provide quality education. Abisalome Rambo with the details.
It's no secret that the education sector has received the largest chunk of the 2014 budget. And while it covers quite a bit of students' needs, there are still some concerns.
We understand that whenever there is an increase in the budget, whatever had been taken away earlier as a cost-cutting measure is reinstated first. Unfortunately, the budget did not have that provision.
According to Singh, cost-cutting measures directly affects the quality of education.
One of them is the reduction of the executive teacher positions in the primary schools by 50%. We had 854 executive teacher positions, which were reduced to about 450.
He adds that executive teachers receive a small allowance for supervising classes in clusters. Singh says this was implemented as a result of the 1993 job evaluation exercise carried out by the Ministry of Education. However, as a result of recent changes, non-teaching head of schools in larger primary schools have also been given classes to teach.
So they had to teach a class and also supervise 16 to 25 teachers and classes. So monitoring and supervision is being affected, which means the overall performance of the school in the actual core business gets affected.
According to Singh, this issue has been brought to the attention of the Ministry of Education. Several attempts were made to obtain comments from the Permanent Secretary of Education. However, these proved futile. Abisalome Rambo, Fiji One News.
Schools should not dictate where school uniforms or stationery are to be purchased. The Commerce Commission has come out strongly on this matter following several complaints on this issue. The Commission clarified that textbooks are not under price regulation and that the onus is on parents to be prudent shoppers.
No school management can instruct students or parents to buy it from a particular supplier.
With school commencing next week, a lot of parents will be rushing to make those last-minute back-to-school purchases. The Consumer Council adds that parents should practice comparison shopping to get the best deals.
Parents question why prices differ from shop to shop. And the answer to that is that these items are not under price control. And each and every item cannot be put under price control. And it is for this reason the prices will differ. And a parent can be a smart shopper. If they do comparison shopping, then they'll be able to save some money.
We have more news still to come. Stay with us. Former Fiji Visitors Bureau Chief Executive Joe Tuamoto has taken up a senior posting in the Solomon Islands. Tuamoto has been appointed as the new Chief Executive Officer of the Solomon Islands Visitors Bureau. Bureau Chairman Moses Tepai called on the local tourism industry to throw its full support behind Tuamoto as he begins the process of creating and implementing strategies aimed at pushing Solomon's tourism as the prime source of foreign exchange earnings within the next 10 years. Tepai says they are extremely fortunate to have someone of Joe's caliber on board. Tuamoto joins the Solomon's tourism body with vast global tourism marketing experience. With Tonga and Vanuatu now able to enjoy faster telecommunication connectivity, other Pacific Island countries also want to enjoy this benefit. The Fiji-Tonga cable system has reaped positive benefits for those involved.
See, for Tonga and Vanuatu, the capacity on the cable now is over 200 times the internet capacity they have at the moment. So once it's fully filled, it will be more than 1,000 times. So that itself is an excitement for the Kingdom of Tonga and Vanuatu.
And with Vanuatu joining the fold, other neighbouring Pacific Island countries are also showing interest. With 2 cable systems installed, this positions Fiji as the telecommunications hub.
And we are also talking to Samoa at the moment, and Solomon's is the 4th one. So with these 2 already landing here, I think the interest will be from the other islands, but of course the funding, and that's where the World Bank and ADB come in.
And remember, you can view tonight's Fiji One News Bulletin on our website at www.fijione.tv. You can also watch previous news bulletins as well as our current affairs, business and sports shows. We go to sports now with Myron, and FRU delays naming new CEO and sponsors.
That's right, Vili. We'll all just have to wait a little bit longer as the Fiji Rugby Union finalizes a few details before making those announcements. That's coming up. Also in sports tonight, Levani Mbotia ready for the challenge ahead. And Rokora keen to continue in her role.